Nina Hartley is a name that instantly brings to mind one of the most recognizable figures of the 1980s and 1990s. But behind the fame, controversy, and public attention was a woman who built a career that lasted far longer than anyone expected. So, how did Nina Hartley become one of the most famous and enduring personalities of her generation? And how did she manage to reinvent herself time and time again while so many others faded from the spotlight? This is the story of Nina Hartley. Born in California in 1959, Nina Hartley grew up during a period of major social and cultural change in the United States. Before becoming famous, she pursued education and studied nursing. She was intelligent, outspoken, and interested in understanding people, relationships, and human behavior. At the time, she probably could never have imagined where life would eventually take her. In the early 1980s, Nina entered the adult entertainment industry, a decision that would completely change her life. The industry itself was also going through a major transformation. Home video was changing the way people consumed entertainment, and performers who might once have remained relatively unknown were suddenly becoming recognizable public figures. Nina quickly stood out. She had confidence, she had intelligence, and perhaps most importantly, she had a personality that audiences remembered. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Nina Hartley became one of the biggest and most recognizable names in the industry. Her career continued to grow, and she became known around the world. But fame can disappear quickly. New stars arrive, trends change, audiences move on. Many performers experience success for only a short period of time before disappearing from public attention. Nina Hartley understood that better than most. Instead of allowing herself to be defined by a single role, she began expanding her public identity beyond entertainment. And that decision would become one of the most important moments of her career. Nina started speaking publicly about sexuality, relationships, personal freedom, and education. Her background in nursing gave her a different perspective, and her confidence as a speaker allowed her to discuss subjects that many people still considered controversial. She became involved in discussions about feminism and sexual education, and appeared at universities, conferences, documentaries, and public events. Suddenly, Nina Hartley was no longer just known as a famous entertainer. She was becoming an educator, a public speaker, an activist, and a cultural figure. That transformation helped Nina remain relevant even as the entertainment industry continued to change around her. But her journey was never without controversy. Nina Hartley was outspoken, and she rarely avoided difficult conversations. While some people admired her openness and willingness to discuss controversial subjects, others strongly disagreed with her views. Yet one thing remained clear. Nina was determined to control her own story. She refused to disappear, and she refused to allow other people to decide who she was. Over the years, she appeared in interviews, documentaries, television programs, and mainstream media. Her recognizable personality made her famous even among people who had never seen her original work. Her influence extended beyond the industry that first made her famous. And this is where Nina Hartley's story becomes especially interesting. Her greatest achievement may not have been simply becoming famous. It may have been surviving fame. For decades, she managed to remain relevant in an industry where careers often disappear overnight. She constantly reinvented herself: performer, educator, public speaker, activist, cultural icon. Each new chapter allowed her to reach a different audience. Throughout her long career, Nina also received numerous awards and recognition for her work. Her influence was acknowledged by the industry, and she eventually became one of the most celebrated and recognizable figures of her era. But her legacy goes far beyond awards. Nina Hartley became part of a much larger conversation about personal freedom, sexuality, feminism, entertainment, and the power of controlling one's own public image. Whether people agreed with her or not, Nina Hartley was impossible to ignore. And perhaps that is the secret behind her incredible longevity. She never tried to become invisible. She embraced controversy, she adapted to change, and she continued to reinvent herself. Today, decades after she first entered the public spotlight, Nina Hartley's name remains recognizable around the world. Her story is not simply about fame. It is a story about reinvention. It is a story about controversy, and it is the story of a woman who refused to let one chapter of her life define the entire book. From the height of her fame in the 1980s and 1990s to her later work as an educator and public figure, Nina Hartley built a career unlike almost anyone else. And even after decades in the public eye, people are still talking about her. That may be the greatest sign of a true icon, because fame eventually fades, trends eventually change. But some names continue to survive, and Nina Hartley is one of those names. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more untold stories, forgotten legends, and fascinating journeys behind the people who shaped entertainment history.